Brenner Mills, Minnesota Vikings. Just want to win one before I die.
I'm Riley Mills, and I didn't go to college. Bear down, baby.
Lane Cooner, the conductor of the Baker train.
We are joined by the conductor of the Baker train, Lane Cooner himself. How you doing, buddy?
Pretty good, man. Still got my golf attire on. Just got back.
Yeah. You shoot well today?
Well, we did scrambles and we shot 2 over total, so that's not
okay. That's
terrible.
pretty good. That's pretty good. All right. Well, welcome to the Wide Eye Sports Top 10 video post Week 11. Normally we have a third, as you saw in the intro. Riley will not be joining us this week, so we'll just jump right into the top 10 list. We do a top 10 where we all three turn in our top 10s. First place is worth 10 points. 10th place is worth 1 point. I do all the averages, and we get a compiled list. So let's go ahead and pull up the top 10. So we'll start with our bubble team and our 10th place team. Spoon had to ensure that the Green Bay Packers made it onto the list. He put them a few spots higher than they definitely should be to ensure that. And we have Houston at 10 and Houston at 11, Green Bay at number 10. I'm not terribly upset about the Green Bay Packers being at number 10. I don't personally have them as a top 10 team right now in the NFL. But, they're, I don't know, the squeak out against Chicago, they 100% should have lost that game. That was I don't know, did you see the Christian Watson catch that should have been ruled an incomplete that set them up to score or to go up in the game? Yeah. So
I saw it, but I didn't see the ruling after because I was kind of working. So I looked up the TV and I saw the catch.
Yeah, and I thought it was just a catch from the beginning. I watched the play, thought he caught it. He got up and ran for like another 40 yards, and I never questioned it. And then Riley, the other member of our show, texted me. He's like, "Dude, that was a drop. It hit the ground. Like every view I've seen, it hits the ground. I'll die on that hill." And I was like, "Yeah, whatever. Like Bears fan, sure, okay." And I went back and watched it, and it definitely hits the ground and moves, and then he readjusts and grabs it and gets up and runs, which sets them up for the go-ahead score. And then on the PAT or on the field goal, the blocked field goal, they go straight through the center, which is a textbook flag. You're not allowed to touch the center until 1 second after the ball was snapped on a field goal. And I can live with the Christian Watkins. What's with me saying
Yeah,
Christian
I don't know.
Watkins?
I don't know.
It never said that. Christian Watson, I can live with that one because, like, in real time, I didn't even think there was a question. Like, whatever. Those get missed. But straight up bulldozing the long snapper on a field goal, that can't get missed. That's especially if it's the guy who blocks the field goal. Like, I don't know. That's the Packers shouldn't have won that game based off that. But yeah, I'm not I don't think they're a 15th ranked team. I think they're the 12th ranked team. I think Denver's probably above them. I think Houston's probably above them. They beat Houston by 2, I believe, in Green Bay. So on a neutral site, that's a 1-point Texans win and a 4-point Texans win at home. I think they're the better team. I don't know. I know you disagree.
I do because I still can't put them above the Chargers. Just because the Chargers' best win and only good win is against the Broncos. They still don't have another. They don't have another decent win on their schedule at all. Every time they play a team that's decent, I mean, they end up losing. They should have lost last week. That's why it's still tough for me. Like, I know that Green Bay should have lost, but, like, hey, the Chargers definitely should have lost. Like, if McPherson just makes one of those 2 missed field goals.
Yeah, and that's a fair point. But for me, Houston has been beating teams unhealthy, and Green Bay has been beating teams healthy or unhealthy while healthy, if that makes sense. I said that a little weird. Houston has been banged up and been winning games. Green Bay has been healthy and beating banged up teams. So if Green Bay has to face a healthy schedule the whole season, I don't think they're 7-3. I think they're probably 5 wins instead of 7 wins, which isn't like a world worth of difference. It's 1, maybe 2 games type situation.
I'm not gonna lie, this week was very tough for me for the top 10 because there's 11 clear-cut teams that are have at least won 7 games.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's like obviously you have a couple teams that are like 6-5, which with the Cardinals and the Broncos, who are both
Yeah.
like they're better than 15. They're not quite there to be in the top 10, but you have 11 pretty good teams that you could
Bona fide top 10 teams.
you could interchange any of them. That's
Yeah,
why this week,
100%.
whenever I sent you my top 10, I sent you my top 11 because I'm like, hey man, like I think these
Yeah.
are the 11 best teams, and then there's a clear like kind
I
of
think
drop
that
off.
I
Maybe
think
the Cardinals.
7 to 12 is pretty interchangeable. Like you could make an argument anywhere in that 7 to 12 range for the top. Like you could put 12 at 7, you could put 7
Yeah.
at 10. You could, I'm not mad at it. But all right,
You could put the Packers above the Commanders, or you could put the Commanders
Yeah.
over the Packers.
Yeah,
You could do the same
absolutely.
thing with the Chargers too. But
you can make the argument. Absolutely. All right, the number 9 team on the list. Speaking of the Washington Commanders, couple good losses. Philly's hot. I said it last week on the show that Philly's not for real. I still don't believe Philly's for real. Just because I don't think Washington's a Super Bowl contender. Like I don't know if you feel any differently, but they're a top 5 offense, but that defense is bottom 10, and it doesn't shock me that Philly won that game because their offense is so good and their defense has got to go against lesser offenses for the most part, and they have won games because of that. And I don't feel like the defense has been truly tested. I feel like there's bits and pieces where they've been tested, but not like straight up slugfest 4 quarters. You have to go in and shut somebody down in order to win a game, and they haven't been able to do that. So I don't know. I like Washington between 8 and 10 somewhere.
yeah,
How you feel?
I'm fine with Washington there. I didn't want to drop them all the way down. That's kind of why I had to leave Houston at 11, just because the Commanders still like they look a little better right now. Obviously, Houston, once they get their players back, hopefully they'll start being a little more dominant.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't look at their win against the Cowboys and think like, oh my God, Houston's so good, beating up on because we're ass. The Cowboys are ass.
Yeah. No,
So
I get it.
And the fact that it was still close through the first half, and then the second half is when they started pulling away. I'm like, okay, so we can hang with Houston through one half of football at least.
Yeah.
But I'm fine right where Washington's at. I'm cool
All
with
right.
it.
Number 8, we have the LA Chargers. They've won 4 straight, 5 out of their last 6. I believe I sent this to you. They have a plus 57 point differential in the last 5 games. With their only loss coming, it was a 2-point. Who was it to? Was it to Denver? No, they beat Denver. Who was their loss to?
The Cardinals.
The Cardinals by 2 points. That's what it was. And 2 points against the Cardinals, who were really hot at that time. I'm not super pissed about that. I don't expect the Chargers to be a top 5 team. I didn't even really expect them to be a top 10 team. So I think they're outperforming. I think they're really hot right now. I think this is probably as high as they'll end up getting this season. They could get up to like 7, maybe even 6, but I don't expect much more of them. They're doing great. They're really hot, and good for them.
They're going to have their hands full next week when they take on the Ravens for sure.
Yeah.
They just they've got all the easy games out of the way, which is, I mean, that's good for them because what are they, 8?
Yeah.
They're 7-3, right?
7-3, yeah.
Yeah, they're sitting 7-3 right now, so they just got to sneak it, which they're probably going to win a couple more. They got the Patriots and the
They
Raiders
can get
on the schedule.
3 games, 3 more wins.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're
I
in the
think they're
playoffs for sure.
playoff team, road playoff game. They're
It's just-
not going to catch Kansas City. Kansas City's
Yeah.
not going to lose 5 more games. So
Absolutely not. They just don't have a significant win besides Denver for me. That's why I still can't. Like, I know that you guys have them higher than I do. I can't put them that high.
that defense is just for real, man. It's
I
just
get
for
that,
real.
but like they're not. They did not allow a whole lot of points to who though? The Saints they had Spencer Rattler starting.
Yeah, no.
The Browns
But-
had Justin.
But
Winston
they pass the
for
eye test. It doesn't
eye
matter
injuries.
like who they've played necessarily. It's when you watch them, you're like, okay, this defense is for real. They went toe to toe. The offense went blow for blow with Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, who were a top 3 offense last week. So the offense proved they can score with anybody. And when the defense doesn't pick up the slack, right? So because the defense, they got worked this week. Joe Burrow and the Bengals, they're
They
top 3
played an
offense.
excellent first
They-
half.
Yeah,
It was
but
an excellent first half.
But you can only contain that offense for so long. You're not going to shut that offense down for 4 quarters. And they didn't, which I don't expect any defense to. And so, the Bengals did the Bengals thing where their defense got beat and their offense proved that they can, go out and score against people when they need to. I think they look like a complete team right now. No, they didn't score against a great defense in Cincinnati, but they did what they needed to do to win. I think they're hot, and I like them at the back half of the top 10. Number 7 on our list, the Baltimore Ravens. Streaky team, started slow, got hot, kind of middling out now. Not middling out, but just plateauing out now. Lamar is still Lamar. He's still my favorite to win MVP right now, even though Josh Allen just beat the Chiefs. I still like Lamar as MVP. This offense is just so scary when it's clicking. Like, you can't stop it when it's clicking. So the defense is still not where it needs to be.
Not at all.
It needs to be a lot better to win a Super Bowl, but that offense is my personal number 1 offense in the league.
Yeah. I mean, I think I had them at 7. It's just they have 4 losses. That's the big thing with me. I mean, I know that they lost to the Steelers, but like that's why we're not dropping them down too far like we did the Commanders, because the Commanders are almost outside of the top 10 at this point. But yeah, this offense is scary, but the Steelers defense is scarier.
Yep. No, I agree. Steelers are the number 1 defense in the league for me right now. Follow right behind.
Absolutely.
The Chargers are number 2 and Denver's number 3. I mean, those are the top 3 defenses overall on the year. Maybe not week to week, but overall in the year, I think those 3 defensive have played the best as a whole. But all right, the number 6 team on our list, my Minnesota Vikings. And I think this is criminally low for the Vikings. I believe they're a top 4 team. I believe they are the second best team in the NFC, period, right now. Just because I think the Eagles are a little fraudulent. Your argument for the Chargers having who have they beat? The Eagles are kind of in the same boat, and I know that's hypocritical of me, but the Eagles, I don't know if I have it up right here. Hold on, let me find it real quick. I have it in my notes. Hold on. Their opponent the teams that they have beaten have an average win percentage of, gotta find it. Here it is. 0.368, so 36%. So teams that they're beating are, 36% win teams. It's just not like, it's unimpressive. And I know they're winning pretty handily and their offense is clicking really well, but what happens on the one game that their offense either doesn't show up or the offense isn't, just gets stopped. And not to say the Vikings haven't had situations. They had a bad 2-game stretch where they played the Lions and the Rams. And I still, we were 1 first down away from beating the Lions. So I still think the Lions are not a world bet. A lot of people would say the Lions are the clear-cut best team in the NFC by a mile. And I don't agree with that. I feel like the Minnesota Vikings have a very realistic chance to beat them on any given Sunday. I don't know. I feel like they dominated the past 2 weeks, just not on the scoreboard.
I think this Vikings team is becoming more vulnerable now.
How so?
When I'm saying that is that, yeah, they started out the season great, but there wasn't a whole lot of footage on Sam Darnold. Most teams didn't really know how he was going to play, what he was going to read most of the time. Now, I mean, we're 10 weeks in, 11 weeks in?
11 weeks.
We're 11 weeks in, and yeah, so there's a lot more footage that's why like this offense looks like they're struggling just a little bit.
I mean,
and
on the
becoming a little more
scoreboard,
vulnerable.
on the score, like raw statistical points, yes, but they're a top 10 offense. They're a top 10 yardage offense. They haven't really, the only struggle they have is putting up massive amounts of points in games. I just don't like, they run the ball well. They move the ball up and down the field well. They've had some red zone struggles in the past couple weeks. They put up 29 on Detroit. They should have put up 30 in this game. We had a drop touchdown pass, which was just terrible. It's unacceptable. You can't have it. So they're making some mistakes, but at the same time, it's just not like, it's like 1 or 2 little mistakes. It's not like.
I also make my top 10 based on like kind of similar how college football would do. Like obviously the teams that get the better wins and keep doing it, like I'm going to probably put them a little bit higher. And the Vikings haven't beaten really anybody the last 3 weeks. And then you have the Eagles and the Steelers who just got huge wins this last week. So it's like, okay, I'm going to bump them up just a little bit. I'm not going to move. The Vikings aren't moving out of my, like I had them at 6.
Yeah, I understand.
Like they're
But
not anywhere close to dropping out of the top 10, but it's
no,
like
no.
they have the same record as the Eagles and the Steelers, and they both just come off of big wins.
But they have more impressive wins than the Eagles.
Their most impressive win is against the Texans.
Texans, Niners, at Green Bay.
The Niners
Those
is
are
not,
three
the Niners
playoff
no
teams.
longer look like an impressive win. They're losing to too many teams.
All right, fine. You can say that. They still
Yeah.
had everybody. They didn't have McCaffrey, but they had Jordan Mason, who was putting up 100 yards a game at that time. I still count that as an impressive win because the 49ers are like, I think it's 6 total game minutes away from being 8-2. So, and we dominated them. They didn't have like a late, like, oh, we barely squeaked by. We dominated them. So, I don't know. It's
they just lost at home to the Seahawks with Christian McCaffrey.
that's a divisional game.
I get it, but it's at home. They lost
It's a
at
divisional
home
game.
to a division game or to a,
I mean,
a division
we beat the
rival.
Packers at home, and we didn't get a lot of credit for that. We got they kind of let the Packers come back into that game. Nobody went, oh, wow, the Vikings beat up on the Packers in Green Bay. No, they went, well, Jordan Love almost had the comeback win. Like, that's kind of iffy on Minnesota.
And that's
So-
fair. That's why I still have Minnesota above Green Bay.
Oh, I'm not talking about you specifically. I'm not talking about you specifically. I'm salty. I'm salty that the Vikings got moved down in the power rankings off a win in which the Titans never had a legitimate chance to even participate in this game, aside from one busted coverage on a 98-yard
The
touchdown.
Steelers also just beat the Commanders and the Ravens back to back. So it's like, dude, that's two
fair.
tough weeks, and they came away with 2 dubs.
That's fair, but you guys left Kansas City at number 1 for weeks despite close wins, and you're like, we can't move them down after a win.
They're not because they're not losing. They haven't because they didn't lose a single
we're not
game.
losing.
They didn't
We're on
lose
a
this-
3-game
yeah,
win
but they're
streak.
undefeated. You can't take the only undefeated team and move them out of
You
first.
absolutely, I did.
Like now, I moved them down to 3.
Yeah.
They have
All right,
one
we
loss.
spent too much time on the Vikings. I made the mistake. I opened the rabbit hole. I'm sorry. We'll move on to number 5, the Philadelphia Eagles. There was a tie for this, but point differential gets it. The Eagles have a 6-point better point differential. They've just played weaker teams, in my opinion. They don't. I feel like, yeah, I don't know. I'm biased. I'll admit it in this situation, but I think the Vikings could definitely beat the Eagles. The Eagles have the more like high profile names. I just don't. I don't see Philly doing much on our defense. But hey, I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again.
I mean, they're on a 6-game win streak right now. 3 of those games they absolutely dominated the other team, which I get the Cowboys and the Giants are 2 of those, but they beat them on their home turf and beat the shit out of them too. 2 division rivals. That's huge. They beat the crap out of the Bengals as well. So I'm just, and then they're coming off of a big win against the Commanders. They got to be top 5 for me. I don't have them higher right now, but I think 5 might be as high as they go.
I don't know.
Because-
I think their most impressive win is against the 4-6 Bengals, and that's because they held them to 17 points. So that would be my most impressive win for the Eagles so far this season. You could say the Packers game early in the season, but that was in Brazil. I feel like that's like a London game thing. Like I didn't hold it against the Bills last year when they lost to the Jags in London. Like I'm not holding that over somebody's head when there's all that weird stuff going on around the game. Plus the field was dog shit.
Well,
So-
we're going to find out if they're frauds or not for sure because 4 of their next 5 games are against the Rams, the Ravens, the Steelers, and the Commanders.
Yep.
So they have a very tough next few weeks ahead.
I think they'll beat the Rams for sure. I think they could beat
I
the
think
Rams.
they beat the Rams. They probably lose to the Ravens because it's in Baltimore, but
I think
they're
they get beat up on by the Steelers. I think they're in for a rude awakening.
I
with
think
the Steelers.
and that's why I'm going to just guess the next team up is the
The
Steelers,
Pittsburgh Steelers,
which is why I had them above the Eagles because I
That's
do think the
fair.
Steelers would beat them head to head.
I do agree with that. I think the Steelers right now would beat the Vikings head to head too. I think they're in a good spot at number 4. Russ has that offense clicking. They're playing really well. They're running the ball efficiently. Russ is, working the ball efficiently down the field. That defense is the best defense in the league right now, via eye test, not via statistics. So yeah, Joey Porter Jr. is balling out. TJ Watt is still TJ Watt. So you got names all over the defense. They're just playing good ball.
Yep, they are. They're Their 2 losses came with Justin Fields being the quarterback. This is a whole
Yep.
different offense now.
Whole
with
different
Russell Wilson
offense.
there, and that's why I've been pretty high on them for the last few weeks. And I called it last week whenever I said, "Hey, the Steelers they're gonna beat the Ravens." I'm telling you, called it last week, and that's exactly
Yeah.
what happened. It's a good win. It did come down. It was kind of close towards the end, but
I thought it was wild. They were plus 140 the night before the game. And I looked at one of my buddies. I was like, dude, Steelers money line is kind of the play.
yeah,
I mean, plus 140. How do you pass that up at home with that
At home,
defense?
at home, and you're an underdog, and your offense
don't even
has been
They don't even have to score touchdowns.
yeah.
I saw
You're
the
all-
stat. Joe Burrow has 9 touchdowns against the Ravens this season, 0 wins. The Steelers have 0 touchdowns against the Ravens this season, 1 win.
Yep.
Like crazy.
You just
No,
got to get it across midfield. That's all you got to do. As long
Yep.
as you're scoring almost every single drive, just putting some points on the board, it's gonna help with that defense.
It's gonna add up. It's gonna add up. All right, next team, the number 3 team on our list, the Kansas City Chiefs. They fall from 1 down to 3 because they have not been the best team in the NFL for quite some time, but due to some other people on this show being unwilling to move them down because of continuous wins, they have been number 1. They finally fall down to a more accurate ranking at number 3. I would even take the Steelers over them personally, but I understand if you guys wouldn't yet.
Yeah, if they played
Yeah.
on a neutral field right now, I would take the Steelers.
I love that. Number 2 team on the list, however, is a little bit of a surprise.
Whoa.
The Detroit Lions. I knew you'd be surprised by that one.
Who
The
the
Detroit
hell did
Lions
that?
come in at number 2.
I did not
Oh.
do that, just to anybody watching.
I will say this. I had Buffalo at number 1 last week. They were my number 1 team last week, and so I couldn't move them down. Detroit
You had Buffalo at 1 last week?
Yep, they've been the best team in the league, dude. They've been the best team in the league for a couple weeks now. And I say that with the caveat that Detroit has been decimating bad teams. They have been decimating bad teams.
Yeah, Detroit has been absolutely just
but
destroying these other
they've been
teams.
decimating bad teams.
I don't care. They're still
That's-
52-6 in a football game in the NFL. That is
Hey, I'm not
absolutely
saying that's not
insane.
impressive. I'm not saying that's not impressive. I'm saying that at this point, the Buffalo Bills and the Detroit Lions will play a football game against each other, and it will be in the regular season. I believe it's week 15 or 16. And right now, I would expect Buffalo to win that game
In Detroit.
in Detroit, no matter where they play. They could play in my backyard. I believe the Buffalo Bills will win that game right now. I'm not saying that in 3 weeks when they play, I'll feel the same way, but the way both teams are playing right now, the Detroit Lions are playing amazing offense and good defense. The Bills have been playing great on both sides of the ball. And I know they only let up 6 points to the Jags. They now had tape on Mac Jones. It's a different ball game when you have tape on the backup quarterback. I took the under on 10 points on the Jags. So I never thought that I had 2 insane bets this week. That was number 1. I got called crazy for that one. Then my other bet was I had no Dallas Cowboy to score, or no starter on the Cowboys to score a touchdown, and both of those hit. So sorry, Spoon.
That's fine. I wouldn't expect us to either. So you're good.
Either way, the Bills and the Lions are currently head and shoulders above everybody else play wise. I don't think either team is unbeatable, because both teams have lost.
They both have a loss.
They both have lost. So I don't think they're unbeatable. I think weekly the way they're playing is they're 1A and 1B right now for me.
They're the 2 hottest teams in the NFL right now.
Absolutely by a mile.
They both got their losses at the beginning of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So like Detroit's on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Detroit's on an 8-game win streak.
Mm-hmm.
That is hot. I don't know how many Buffalo's won in a row now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. And that is tough to do in the NFL. Win 6 straight games, period. I know the Chiefs. Okay, I get it. Yeah, the Chiefs did it 9 times, but
Yeah, they squeaked through a lot of those. And the reason I had Buffalo at number 1 last week is because I've had Kansas City at 3 for a few weeks on mine. And I had Buffalo in Detroit at 1 and 2. And if you remember, Jared Goff threw 5 interceptions and they squeaked out a win the week before last. And so Buffalo moved up for me on that week.
Okay.
And that is why I had Buffalo at number 1. And I can't really move Buffalo down because it wasn't like they squeaked out. It's just I'm not mad at anybody who puts Detroit at number 1 right now. I'm not mad about it. But yeah, with that being said,
go ahead and scroll up. Yeah,
number
we're
1,
we all
Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen is being referred to as Superman by most of the media. I don't think he's having to do it all by himself. I think other people on the team are stepping up huge. James Cook is having a super underrated season. Shakur's playing amazing. Amari Cooper's made some plays in his couple games there. The defense is performing at a level in which I thought was impossible for this defense after losing all the talent they did. So that is a team in Detroit, or in Buffalo. Like, Detroit is the best offense in the league, no question. But their defense, you can hang 30 on their defense with a good offense any week. You cannot hang 30 on Buffalo's defense with a good offense any week. It could happen, but I wouldn't bet on it. I would bet that the Steelers could go hang, it could be a 32-30 game against the Lions. I'm betting 24-17 against the Bills.
Okay.
So,
I'm just curious now. I was looking at the odds for the MVP race, and there's Josh Allen.
I think Josh Allen's
1.
one. Yeah, I think Josh Allen's at 1.
Lamar Jackson's very close to 2, but besides them 2,
yeah, it's a huge gap.
It's a big gap. Like, Jared Goff is plus 800 and Pat is plus 1200. But
and Jared Goff has been playing lights out ball, right? Like, he's been,
besides the 5 interception
one
game,
week.
yeah.
1 week he's had one bad week. Every other week, lights out. 2 times this season, he's had like 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, like lights out. But it's because Ben Johnson is a great coordinator, not because Jared Goff is some elite quarter. Like, he's not. Like, you could stick a Tua Tagovailoa, a Derek Carr, a Jared Goff, a Kirk Cousins into that offense, and they will perform at a Pro Bowl level. Now, Jared Goff is going beyond that, and I think that's good for him. And he has shown flashes of this, but never done it consistently. This is by far the most consistent he's been. But I think that the Lions are the more dominant team, but the Bills are the more well-rounded team, if that makes sense. Like, if I had to bet one team to put up 50, it's the Lions all day. But if I had to put my life on it for them to win the game, I'm taking the Bills. So,
all right.
But all right, you got anything you want to add to that? All right, well, with that,
the Lions are 1, but that's fine.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I'm not going to be mad at that. Not going to be mad at that at all. Riley also had the Bills at 1, so that's why they got the 1 instead of the Lions. So that's that. If you disagree, let us know in the comments. If you agree, let us know in the comments, and we will see you guys next time.
See ya.